authentication and authorization in ASP.NET Core. See, first, what exactly is authentication and what exactly is authorization? Authentication is a process in which a user is supposed to provide the credentials, and those are supposed to be most of the time username and password, and using those credentials we are going to verify whether they are valid or invalid, so that we know what user is claiming himself or herself to be is correct. So the act of verification is authentication. What is authorization? Based on the authentication, we have attached some identity to the user, and at times we will also have certain roles associated with the user. So based on that identity and the role, is the user denied or allowed to access the resources, is what is called as authorization. Yes, there has been different frameworks for implementation of authentication and authorization in the history of ASP.NET right from its version 1. But one of the most beautiful framework which is available is ASP.NET Core Identity Framework. With least amount of effort, we can achieve complete implementation of user authentication and authorization. So, is a membership system that adds login functionality to ASP.NET Core applications. Users can create an account with the login information stored in the identity, or they can use external login provider also. So we can either use the identity provider database which is provided by ASP.NET Core and Entity Framework Core, or we can also use some external providers like Facebook, Google, Microsoft account, Twitter. All these can be used for authenticating the user. Of course, authorization we take care of, but authentication can be either done within ASP.NET Identity Framework or with the help of some external login providers, social login providers. How is this implemented? Now the Identity Framework requires you to add a NuGet package, Microsoft.ASP.NET Core, ASP.NET Core.Identity. Actually, this is the primary package, and this package is under this particular meta package. .app is the meta package, basically comprising of many packages. Under this, identity is the package we are interested in. Now, in the identity framework, these are the different entity types. We have got identity user, identity role, identity user claim, user token, user login, role claim, role user. All these are ready-made classes. Basically, these are, I can say, model classes. And for these classes, there are tables created in the database. So how are these tables created? How are these classes supposed to be used? All this is already pre-programmed in the identity framework. So yes, identity user represents the user, identity role represents the role, and then what is important is between all this user, role, claims, token, there is a relationship. Each user can have many user claims. Now user claims identifies that extra data which we are going to get along with the request. Most of the time we call that as claims data. User logins, user tokens, like that we can have a user token, role claims, and then we have got user to role, a many to many relationship. One user can have many role and one role can have many users. So that's how these entities are related to each other in the ready-made entity framework model, which is auto-generated. Two major classes which are going to be very handy here. One is user manager class and the other is sign-in manager class. Now user manager class basically provides a facade for signing users, signing out users, registering users. So all these things are taken care by user management. And signing in manager takes care of things like two-factor authentication. If you want to lock out the account of the user, such kind of features are available in sign in manager. So sometimes we use user manager and sometimes we use sign in manager, and beautiful thing is both are dependency injected classes. You can provide a parameter of type user manager, You can provide a parameter of type sign in manager to a controller and get these references and perform your action. So this is very high level overview. Ideally, the best way to understand this thing is through a sample program. So I create a new project. Let's say we create a new ASP.NET application. Now, important thing is you have the ability to generate the code later also, but during the project itself, during the initial stage itself, if you want, you can go here, click on change authentication and change this to individual user authentication. Individual user accounts, and click on OK. OK, and you will see that some code is generated now, which will take care of the complete registration process. Login, registration, everything is automatically going to be available to our project. Now what is new first? Because of that check mark, individual user accounts, what is that we got extra? First, if you look at your startup class, you will now find you have got a service registered. Application DB context class is registered, which is actually connecting to a SQL Server connection string in app settings. So app settings has default connection string, which is referring to my local DB. I'll just leave this as it is. And then I have a data folder under that application DB context. Application DB context is inherited from identity DB context. Very important. Identity DB context is the parent for my application DB context. And application DB context internally will be used by lot of ready-made code. Yes, there is a migration also automatically created here. We just need to do an update database and automatically the required tables will get created. So you can see here, create identity schema. We have got tables going to be created like ASP.NET roles, ASP.NET users, ASP.NET roles claims, and so on. All this will be created for us when I do update database, because migration is automatically generated for us. So we have got a data context class, and very important here, you also see there is something called as areas. Now areas is a topic which we are going to cover later, but when we want to break up the large project into multiple modules, we want to break up into pieces, that is when we actually go for areas. So there is one area which is automatically created for us, that is identity. And here we have got pages. These are razor pages. And in that there is a viewstart.cshtml file, which says this is the layout page. So right now you have to notice this is empty and I'm going to fill it up, but without any change. And one more thing, here you see DB context getting linked to the custom class. This service is registering here, and we are also having add default identity. I told you we have ready-made classes as a part of framework. So identity user is the default class. Press F12 and you'll see identity user, which is further inherited from identity user string. So let's go to this identity user and you'll see this identity user has all these fields. So basic fields are already available for the user. It's a generic type, where right now key is of type string, and you can notice key is of type string. And because it is a generic type, they also give us the ability to change the key in case we are interested. But if string is fine to you, just keep it as it is. You don't have to do anything. Right now I'm not making any changes to it. I'll just show you the output of this. And one more thing you have to notice is here we have got now use authentication. The middleware use authentication is added. So the only change I'm going to make is now in my controller, home controller, I will provide an attribute called as authorize. That's it. Only one authorize is provided here. Authorization. ASP.NET Core authorization. Now what does this authorize basically means here? By default, every action method of a controller is accessible to all anonymous users. That means users who have not logged in. So in case we want to allow access to only those users who have logged in, we are supposed to use this attribute authorize. So now just run the application, Control F5, and we have the default home page. But you see now we have got these two things extra. Now how are we getting these two? Let us understand that also first. So we go to now the master page, which is under views, shared, layout.cshtml, and you'll see there is a partial view included in the menu nav bar. In the navigation bar, we have got a partial page, not this one, this one. Partial name login partial. So a partial view by name login partial is here, and that's what is here. It's on the shared folder only. So if you go to login partial, what is there in this? Sign in manager dot is signed in. Basically, if the user is signed in. If the user is signed in, it is giving me a hyperlink with the identity of the user. Basically, with whatever identity the user has signed in, we are going to get that text with hello. Hello, the identity. And of course, we are also going to get a link to logout, account/logout. So when I click on this, but did we write this? Actually, we did not. But it's all part of the framework. We don't have to write this. But if the user is not signed in, you will see that we are going to get the links register and login. And that's how we have these two, register and login. Yes, we can register a user, and only 3 fields are there by default in the registration form. We can customize this as per our requirement, and I'll show you how. But let's say right now just the basic I'll use. Click on register. Now there is a problem. What is that? We have this migration file, but the database is not yet updated. So you have a choice of either going to the project and over here just executing update database. But beautiful thing is ASP.NET has automatically identified that the migration is not applied, and it's giving you an opportunity to apply the migration from here itself. So just click on this. The migration is going to be applied, implies that database will be created. All the schema in this is going to be updated. Because the database is getting created, it took little time, and now it's done. And now it's asking me to do a refresh. So the login is created. I'm already logged in. Yeah, I can log out. I click on home, anonymous user can access. I click on privacy, anonymous user cannot access. So asking me to log in. So I provide here my username with which I have already created my login. And I'm able to see the privacy page, which is actually a secured page. So no programming done, zero programming, and we have all these abilities of registering the user and logging. But of course, it's a very, very, very basic functionality, because at the time of registering, it is only allowing us to provide username and password, no other data. But there are times when we want to customize all this. We want to customize the UI, we want to change the layout page, we want to change so many other things. Changing the layout page is pretty easy. Just go and set the layout page in the identity framework viewstart.cshtml. Whatever layout page, master page you want, you can put that here. So right now we have only one master page and that is being used. All good. So here what we have seen is how we can have the basic default implementation and what all is the auto generated code when we want to integrate identity framework of ASP.NET Core. And all this has come because we have put a check mark at the time of creating the project, user membership, individual user identity. So that's what is that radio button at the time of creating the project has resulted in all this code. So remember once again, you have got context class, you have got code in startup, these two things in configure service, and in configure you have a pipeline created. In the pipeline a middleware is added. Migration is automatically generated, you just need to do the update of database. Now before I close this, I just go to this and I would like to show you the table which is created. So let me copy this, difficult to remember, and here itself you can actually go to view SQL Server Object Explorer and MS SQL, no, projects, ASP.NET Auth 80, yeah, this is the one, and you have tables, external tables, and you see these are the tables created. We have got ASP.NET underscore users. I can show you that the user is existing here. We have not enabled role management and stuff, but if you enable that, yeah, you can add roles, and to add roles again you can make use of the user manager, and those roles will be created in the user role table. ASP.NET roles table it will create. Right now it's empty, and once the roles are created here, and if they are associated with the user, many to many relationship, you will find ASP.NET underscore user roles as the table where the relationship it will be maintained, user ID, role ID, and so on. So this is all skeleton. That's all in this particular session, and all the customization I'm going to show in the next chapter. Thank you.